disadvantaged and highly mobile students. Dominique is our facilitator. Dominique Davis is our facilitator from the Department of Education, and she will run point on our slide deck and our agenda. And I will kick it over to her to read a statement from the department.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique Davis. I am the Director of District Implementation for the Core Division of the Department of Education, and I will serve as your facilitator for all of these meetings. And so my email is dominique.davis@tn.gov, and I will drop that in the chat in a few minutes. I will also drop the meeting materials in the chat as well. All right, so the Tennessee Department of Education is excited to work with you on this opportunity to discuss the state's formula for funding public education. Before we begin, the department would like to remind you of the following. Conversations on this topic are not intended to reflect on the current BEP funding formula. The current BEP funding formula will remain in place until a new funding formula is recommended to and approved by the Tennessee General Assembly. The public is encouraged to submit comments in writing to ensure that all communications are thoroughly documented and can be reviewed and considered in the future. Public comment is encouraged to focus on developing a new formula rather than revising the current funding formula. Consider what should be funded in a new funding formula and at what level. Subcommittees will be responsible for reviewing public comment and making recommendations for what should be included in a new funding formula. While all committees, subcommittees, and members of the public should feel free to communicate openly, documents and records may be subject to public inspection pursuant to the Tennessee Public Records Act and may be publicly posted or otherwise made available. All recommendations that are submitted by committees and subcommittees will be reviewed and considered, but not all recommendations will ultimately be included in the proposed new funding formula. So before I turn it back over to Victor, I wanted to show you all where you can find the recording to this meeting. I will drop this link in the chat as well. It takes you to the department's webpage that is all about K-12 public education funding engagement. And if you will go down to the funding review committees and click on your group, it'll drop down to all of the members here. And then over on the right, you will see a little area that says recording, and that is where the recording will be posted. The meetings from yesterday are already posted today. So if you have to leave early or just want to go back and watch any portion of this or know someone who missed it, you can direct them to this webpage to watch it probably in the next couple of days. And I can also let Victor know when it's uploaded. All right, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dominique. I think now we'll here's a quick overview of today's agenda. Dominique just read the statement. We'll do some intros and then we'll get into our discussion and then close with some meetings details for next time. Figure we go ahead and introduce ourselves to one another. I've spoken to some of you already here and there, but I do not know everyone. But we'll take this time to do that. I'll go first. My name is Victor Evans. I am the Executive Director for Tennessee CAN. I'm really looking forward to hearing all the diverse perspectives from all of you and all the feedback from other Tennesseans throughout the state on how we can move to a funding formula that serves the needs of all students. And what I hope to contribute to this process is my experience as a teacher and having worked in education policy for some time. I hope that some of that is useful to you and as well as others, and of course the department and to the governor ultimately. And what I'll do is I'll just go down, the list that I have, and you can all introduce yourselves. Dominique, could you go to the next slide, please? Around introductions. Thank you. So we have Sheryl Campbell Street. You're up.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Sheryl Campbell Street. I am the Deputy Commissioner for Tennessee Department of Human Services, and I am really thrilled and excited to be part of this group. As most of you may be familiar with, the Tennessee Department of Human Services provide a myriad of services to help people reach their maximum level of independence through food security programs, vocational programs, education, as well as others, protective services. I hope that I will be able to contribute in such a way that the populations in which we serve, some people say marginalized, but I think to say just empowered individuals, we will be able to provide them with some much needed alliance in the area of funding. So thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you so much, and my apologies for mispronouncing your name. And
No worries.
If I do mispronounce anyone's name, it's not intentional. Please do correct me. Next, we have Diarese George.
Hey everybody, sorry I'm not on camera. I'm actually driving right now in middle of transition. My name is Diarese George. I'm the Executive Director, founder of the Tennessee Educators of Color Alliance organization focused on increasing support and educator diversity in our state, and closing the gap between the students that we are serving from an equity standpoint. And I'm excited to listen, learn, and hopefully add some value to the collective of how we can better think around ways of funding school for all of our children. And I think that's it. I'll make sure I hit all the points on the PowerPoint. Yeah. Good to meet everybody.
Thank you, Diarese. Mary Graham.
Hi, y'all. My name's Mary Graham, and I'm also in my car, so I'll spare you the dizzy ride here. But I have the great fun and honor of two hats. I am president of United Ways of Tennessee, and we have 30 United Ways across the state in every single community that there is. And we also run the Tennessee After School Network, which wraps around the school day, everything out of school time, supporting kiddos. And what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to learning and hopefully contributing based on the deep knowledge we have in our communities and our ability to really know what those situations are at the grassroots level. And that's what I hope to contribute. And I'm really excited about this process and having a formula that's more equitable and serves our children and youth better in the state. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary. Elisa.
Hey everyone, thrilled to be on the call. Thanks so much, Victor. Yes, so I am on the State Board of Education here and have spent, like many of you, a lifetime in education. I started out as a classroom teacher like Victor, but then also worked and continue to work in the nonprofit sector in education, and also in addition to having served the last 5 years on the state board, used to be an elected board member for Metro Nashville Public Schools. So I feel very passionately about all these topics. I'm super excited to get to know all of you. I see a couple familiar faces, hello, and yeah, engage in some really tough issues as we try and figure out what's best for our kids in Tennessee.
Thank you, Elisa. Courtney Mott. All right, we'll go on to Commissioner Jennifer Nichols. Commissioner.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I guess it's Wednesday. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Jennifer Nichols, I'm the commissioner over the Department of Children's Services. And as I'm sure everyone knows, our organization provides services to over 9,000 kids that are actually in state custody, as well as over 150 kids this past year, 150,000 families and children that we provide services to that are not in state custody. I make that distinction because I think one of the things I'm really looking forward to is hearing your perspectives on serving those children who, if they didn't have trauma before when they came into state custody, they have it now. And they are certainly highly mobile and many times are disadvantaged. So I feel like I have a lot to learn, anxious to be here, and hope to contribute in the sense that able to provide data and numbers and perhaps individual stories about some of the children that all of us are interested in helping.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next up, we have Ms. Gloria Sweetlove.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gloria Jean Sweetlove, and I am from Brownsville, Tennessee. I am an avid education advocate. I've spent 2 decades on a local school board, been a part of the State School Board Association, and I'm presently president of the Tennessee NAACP. I look forward to being able to discuss and hopefully provide some insight and input on how we make education funding better for the children in Tennessee.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dwayne Tucker.
Yes. Well, good afternoon. Dwayne Tucker, CEO, Lee Public Schools, Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm here just to contribute ideas to hopefully help us develop a more innovative formula for funding.
Thank you. Next up, we have, correct me if I mispronounce, Sam Wigand.
Yes, that's me, Sam or Samantha. I am the CEO of Communities and Schools of Tennessee. We have operations in Memphis, Nashville, and then also in the 15 most economically distressed rural counties across the state. I am really looking forward to all the great minds and all the great ideas that I know are going to come out of this group. And most especially looking forward to hopefully being able to re-engineer funding so that we can better support our students and the many needs we see them having.
Thank you. Next up, we have Senator Brenda Gilmore. All right, we'll come back. And last, we have Representative Chris Hurt.
Good morning. As Victor said, I'm Representative Chris Hurt. I represent the 82nd District, which is Lauderdale, Crockett, and Haywood counties. I'm also Vice Chair of the Education Committee in the House. I'm excited to be part of what I feel is a much needed conversation and to learn from you all in different perspectives. What I hope to contribute is, like a couple of you mentioned, I started out as a classroom teacher in high school, and I was there for 14 years. So I hope to bring a perspective from not only the viewpoint of a legislator, but also from a high school and classroom teacher. And I'm just excited to be part of this conversation.
Thank you, Representative Hurt. All right, well, we'll go ahead and dive on into some of our discussion. You could change the slide, please, Dominique. So wanted to, kind of go back to our objective for this committee. We're focused on economically disadvantaged students, and we're focused on highly mobile students. But I think that from our diverse set of experiences that we've all had professionally and personally, I think that it makes sense for us to lean in and discuss other areas where we think it would be helpful to moving us in the direction of an equitable funding formula that serves all students. One thing to note before we dive in too hard, I think it'll be, from logistics standpoint, I really am honored to be able to work with all of you on this committee. I really appreciate the fact that all of you have decided to volunteer your time to join. And we'll, be convening, for several times. As far as, as we're discussing, let's try and stay focused on the topic at hand. If we do tend to veer off, I'll pull us back. I think if I know what everyone has lots of ideas, and I'm looking forward to hearing them, but it'd be helpful for me if you'd use the raise your hand component within Teams. That way I can ensure that everyone is heard and everyone gets their point across. Again, this is recorded. Dominique is our facilitator, and she'll be with us along. And by the way, as far as notes go, Dominique is taking all notes so that everything that is discussed here can be reflected back into, for the public. Again, we're focusing on ensuring that we
Is there something with the sound or, okay. Victor, can you still hear?
It looks like he froze.
Maybe he will be able to rejoin us in just a second. Are you there?
I think I'm back.
Okay.
Okay. Not sure what happened there. Again, looking forward to the work here. And so what we'll do is, I think.
Maybe he'll get back with us in just a second. I am going to take a second to just tell you all, I got a message right as this meeting was started that with the future calendar invites, we'll be doing a Google folder. So I will link that with our future meeting invites. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we can hop to the next slide, Dominique. Are there any questions about the process? All of you were sent a deck of information that kind of outlined the objectives of the department, where they kind of want to go with the funding, the school funding conversation. And so I'll leave it there if anyone has any questions about the process. Any questions about the cadence of our meetings or the structure of our meetings?
There has been some research done in Texas and some other places as they looked at highly mobilized children and as well as in the economically disadvantaged children. Do we plan to look at some of the data that other states have done? Just what?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Throughout this process, it's my understanding that the department will utilize all sorts of data and resources and learn, from other states who've done it great, who've done it not so great, and also, ensuring that we have experts in this work who can weigh in, and then the other piece of that is the form for public comment is open. I think will continue to remain open on the department's website, and so integrating that feedback with the additional feedback that you just referenced is definitely something that'll be occurring. Are there any other additional materials or resources that any of you feel that would be helpful in this process around our specific scope of student demographic that we're focusing on? Is there any additional information that any of you would need to ensure that the communities and the organizations that you guys serve specifically, to ensure that those voices are heard, because we want to make sure we're really fully capturing everyone's thoughts and opinions here. And feel free to jump in at this point. All right, well, Dominique, I think we can jump to the next slide. These are a couple guiding questions that I think will kind of help us get our thoughts flowing. I'll dive into more about kind of what will happen at our next meeting, where we'll dive into more reviewing feedback from the public and the feedback that the commissioner has received from the town halls that she's been on with her team throughout the state. I'll answer the first question, and then love to hear some thoughts from any of you who feel compelled to share. What do you hope to be true for students in Tennessee? I firmly believe that every student deserves access to a high quality education. I also believe that where a student lives should not determine the outcome of their life. And I think definitely think this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for by changing or moving towards a funding formula that supports all students to really change the trajectory of a lot of students' lives. And I think that with what's happened with the pandemic and just the amount of stress put on students and teachers and families, I think this can definitely get us all in a place where we want to be. So I'll just leave it open for if anyone would like to say anything on this, and if not, we can keep moving. So feel free to jump in if you'd like to say anything.
This is Jennifer Nichols. Victor, I agree with what you said, and that's that, education for our children shouldn't depend on where you live. And in my case, the department that I represent, it shouldn't depend on the fact that you have been removed from the place that you were living in, and now, your future is in flux for a while. And I think it's so important that we do look at individual needs of children and make sure that there's no population that is left out of that, which is hugely exciting. I mean, how blessed are we to get to have any sort of voice in looking at the funding stream for these kids. I'm excited. I think this is an honor that we get to weigh in.
This is Representative Hurd. I want to, and I don't know if it really refers to this question, but I'll say it now, and I think it does refer to it a little bit. But, you know, I hope we can, and this is a complicated issue, and I don't know if what I'm about to say is possible, or I hope to see is possible, but I hope to see that wherever we go with this, that people can understand it. You know, I've had discussions with various people on the BEP and how it works, and it's like you're speaking Greek to me. So, I mean, I don't know if that's possible because of the complications of the funding and how broad it is, but I hope we can get to a point where that maybe older students, but especially parents, can understand what they're looking at.
Yeah, Representative Hurd, you raised a great point. You know, I think one of the ires of where we are is just a lack of understanding. And so I think we can get to a point where there's, you know, a lot of transparency around where money is going, who's affected, what those weights look like. I think that'll put us all in a good place. And one other thing I'd like to add, you know, I think with this committee, I think we're in a unique position with you know, the focus on economically disadvantaged and highly mobile students, because you look across our state, you know, there's 3 grand divisions and there's all sorts of different cities, you know, urban, rural, suburban. You know, these students are all over the state, right? It doesn't matter, you know, what city or county or you know, grand division you're in. You know, you're going to find a group of several groups of students that fit these demographics, unfortunately. And so, you know, the recommendations that we end up making in this committee could really influence where we go with this. So again, appreciative of all of you. I see a hand raised. I can't really see who it is, but go ahead.
Hey, it's Mary Graham from United Way, and I'm excited about this conversation too. And I agree about the comments about the BEP being, you know, really difficult to understand. You know, 2 things I will add to that. You know, coming out of this pandemic, one of the things I hope we're able to do strongly, especially for the population we're supposed to be talking about in this group, is really have some focus on the mental health supports these kids are going to need. And, you know, the flexibility for some of this funding to go towards school nurses and social workers and some of those supports that are going to help kids, you know, get, you know, recover and get back on the right track. And the other thing is, I think we have to keep in mind that there's going to need to be a lot of education locally and a lot of advocacy locally, because what I'm seeing about the revision of all this, it's going to give a lot of power back to the districts, and we got to be ready to support and help them make decisions that are customized for the people locally. So that's what I get excited about, and that's what I hope is true for the kids we're addressing here.
Thank you, Mary. Totally agree with you on that. Yes, Miss Sweetlove, go right ahead.
Yes, and I'd like to add to what I think Mary said, and I do agree with Chris. You know, definitely we need more counselors, more mental health, but I think additional teachers. You know, we talk about it's for real what happened with our students during the pandemic. So many of them, because they didn't have good broadband, many of them, when they were virtual, just did not have, you know, they were trying to do it from their phone, sometimes with one computer in the house. So when one kid was on, the other one couldn't get on. I think we got to look at smaller class sizes, tutors, whatever is needed. This is a special population, and I think they just need some special help.
Great, thank you. Anyone else like to jump in?
This is Sheryl Campbell Street, and forgive me, everyone. I do not have an education background. However, my mother was a teacher for 30 plus years, and I have several relatives that definitely have gone into the education field. And had it not been for some wonderful teachers in my life, I don't know if I would have been even here on this call with you esteemed people. So I have a vested love and interest in education. One thing, I have been here in Tennessee now for 10 years and absolutely love our fine state. But one area that I've noticed in the area in that I live, I work downtown, but my daughter, my wonderful daughter, is a junior. And since she's been here, she has not had a teacher of color or ever. And I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity, particularly with this group, what I believe the research has shown in other areas is sometimes having a diverse educational environment could also assist in helping students of color achieve great things. And I know that we have to submit as a state plan to the Department of Education. I'm wondering if one of the things that we could also invest in and taking a deeper dive in is how do we attract teachers of color or alternative teachers to our fine state, particularly in rural areas. I'm pretty sure that is something that could also assist us in building a thriving Tennessee. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. All the teachers that my daughter have been great. But sometimes it's just in this particular population to have people that look like them at times that can really go a long way in supporting their overall health.
I'm glad you brought that up. I just met with some of my United Ways up in the rural part of the upper eastern part of the state, and they're working with schools to offer bonuses to try to get more, teachers of color and to get more people in the pipeline. It's a big problem. So I'm really glad you raised that. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Sheryl. And fortunately, we have an expert in that area, Dr. Diaries George, who's part of this subcommittee. So I think he may have hopped off, but yeah, very important topic there. I appreciate that. Dwayne, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add on and advocate on behalf of exceptional ed students. In our network of about 3,000 students, we have about 15% of them on our IEP, and some of their requirements actually require, written into their IEP, full-time assistance by a dedicated staff member, which means one staff member per child all day, 5 days a week. So some of the significant needs of that population, I think, need to be addressed clearly as part of this review.
Thank you, Dwayne. Would anyone else like to jump in? This is all great, great conversation. Loving it all. All right, well, we will keep moving then. Looking ahead.
Did you talk about the second question? I didn't know if you wanted me to move ahead or if you were just moving ahead to the second question.
We can move to next slide.
Okay.
All right, just a kind of a preview for our next meeting, which will actually be next week. At the next meeting, we'll receive content for review. So, as you all know, the commissioner's been on kind of hitting the road around the state with some regional town halls, public town halls in different regions of the state to get feedback from the general public. And it's been great to see so much engagement across our state on this topic. So we'll receive content for review. hopefully today, at the latest tomorrow. Members should review that content in addition to feedback they've individually collected. If possible, please also submit collected materials for the full group to consider. So, this means Representative Hurt, for example, I'm going to put you on the spot. If some of your constituents have some feedback that you'd like to share with the group, please do. We think that's super important. Mary, some of the constituencies that you serve as well. If they're people in the field that are talking to you about this topic, we'd love to hear from them as well. Deliverable in reviewing the materials, members will need to categorize the feedback and resource ideas into one of 4 groups and be prepared to discuss the recommendation. And those recommendations: must have, should have, nice to have, and other. And that'll be super important because I imagine we'll have just a plethora of feedback flowing through. And then over the next 2 weeks, we don't have to necessarily decide this today, but it's something that we should consider. How would some of you like to solicit or collect feedback to answer these questions? Is there I know we'll have information from the department fed directly to us that we'll share here that'll be seen publicly. Obviously, there's the department's public forum. Those of you in nonprofits who work with communities, who work with teachers, who work with students, who work just general concerned citizens. Does anyone have any strong feelings about how we should collect feedback? Mary, I see your hand raised up here. I don't know if that's kind of from last time, but
I'm just in the car and having trouble maneuvering. I'm done.
No worries. Okay, no worries here. Like I said, we'll receive feedback from the department for us to all dive into. So I'm looking forward to that. Next slide, Dominique, please. So our next meeting will be a week from today at noon Eastern online. Dominique will send out the Teams meeting to everyone, and our focus will be to discuss feedback and categorize into priorities. Are there any questions about next week? Again, I appreciate everyone hopping on today. I know you're all very busy. You all have a lot on your plates. Really appreciate the time, taking time here, and I know that Commissioner Schwinn and Governor Lee appreciate it as well.
I dropped in the chat the email. You probably have seen it, but that is the email address that if people ask you where they can send some of their ideas and their feedback in writing, that is one avenue that could be utilized. So I put that there for you.
Thank you, Dominique. And for those of you who are in the car, that is tnedu.funding@tn.gov. Great question, Sam. And Dominique can handle all of that. Well, thank you all. One last thing. Sorry, go ahead.
I just saw the question in the chat. I can go ahead and do all of the meetings ahead of time if that's what the group wants, but I won't have all of the meeting materials to drop into that calendar invite now. So I'm not sure if I need to just go ahead and maybe do the next, or it may ping you once I upload new materials, but I guess it would just be a good reminder of the next meeting. So I can see if I can do that.
Yeah, thank you, Dominique. I think that'll be helpful, just to get at least get those holes in everyone's calendars.
Okay.
All right. Well, the last order of business that I have is I've appointed Elisa Kim to serve as vice chair. Thank you, Elisa. And
Of course.
If there's nothing else for the good of the order, then we are adjourned. Give you some time back. Thank you all. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks so much, Victor.
Thank you, Victor.